Today, we're talking to Mahesh Guruswamy, CPTO at Kickstarter, about how you can deliver bad news and get away with it. You're listening to Joel Beasley, Modern CTO.
I was so excited to get this topic of conversation. Josh pitched it to me. He's like, hey, we're going to talk with him about how to deliver bad news and get away with it. And I was like, yes, that is exactly what I want to talk about. Have you written a book? What's going on?
Oh, yeah. So I wrote a book. It's called How to Deliver Bad News and Get Away with It. And it is, the quick backdrop of that is I'm an introvert by nature. So, and I think just like every other person, I tend to, I guess like not anymore, but I tend to avoid conflict for the longest time. So conflicts was not my thing. But as I climbed up the ladder, as I climbed up the management ladder, became an executive, like those things become your daily thing, right? So it's something you have to do it every day or every other day and do it really well. So one of the things I started doing for myself I started this 10 years ago, is whenever I had to like have a tough conversation at work, I would go home and reflect on how I did. So these are the things that did well. These are the things that did not do well. And I started writing those things down just for myself to sort of process, the moment. And, over the years, those became a set of essays that I started giving out to my teams to say, if you have to deliver tough news to a stakeholder, do it this way. If you have to deliver tough news to a CEO or your boss, keep these in mind. And last year, when I looked at the number of essays I'd written, it was like, oh, there's enough for a book here. So I was like, okay, let's make this happen. So it just came about.
Oh, nice. So these are essentially collections of your personal learnings and reflections over a long period of time.
Yeah, that's right.
That's not bad. And so, all right, let's what's this thing that most people get wrong when they're trying to deliver bad news?
So I have a few things that I want to call out. One is people feel they have to twist the bad news into a good news. And that is completely the wrong thing to do, because the person you're delivering the bad news to wants to understand the reality of what the situation is, reality of what the truth is. So that's number one. And number two, when you're delivering bad news to an employee or a person, but think of it as like performance issues or, things are not working out, people tend to like hypnotize themselves into hating the other person so they can deliver the bad news. And that is also the wrong way to think about the situation. Because I've heard this from people where they say, I can't wait to get rid of this person, or I'll be like very happy when this person leaves. And if you don't feel bad when you're delivering bad news to an employee, something is wrong with you. So that's number two. And number three is giving upward feedback is not straightforward. So if you want to give feedback to your boss or to your CEO, etc., and we can get into it later if you want, it's not straightforward because leaders are wired a certain way and they're hired for that reason. So think of a CEO who's been hired to do a turnaround. So you can't expect this person to be infinitely pliable and malleable, open to all feedback and all understanding. Just not the way the CEO will behave, because they have been hired for a specific reason, which is to turn this thing around, and they're going to apply the techniques that have worked for them in the past. So anything that goes against what they hold true, that it's going to not be received well. So you're really think through what is your feedback and how you're positioning it. I think it works well with somebody who is just starting out. Like if you're an engineering manager or like a product manager, you're just starting out your career in that ladder, then I think it'll work out really well. Because if you have feedback like that, but you can't, the example that I use, you can't expect Jeff Bezos to be kind all the time, right? It's just not the way he operates. It's not the way most successful CEOs operate, or most successful executives operate, is what I would say.
Yeah, well, I'm an entrepreneur, right? And it's like you have a vision and you got to execute, and there is a certain amount of buy-in that you need to achieve the vision. But
that's right.
You also have to get really good at saying no and ignoring the stuff that isn't directly connected to the vision.
That's exactly right. Right. Yeah, that's exactly right.
I'm hired. No. No, but when you were talking about how, the people hypnotize themselves, I can look at my earlier self and be like, yeah, I saw how I used to do that a little bit until I found out it didn't work. Or, I switched from, before I might say I can't get rid of this person and to now being like, man, I should have done a better job hiring. I should, they're not the right fit. I'm going to have to transition them out. And it sucks and it's difficult and you have to do it. But it's a very different thing once you've done it 10, 20, 50 times than it is when you're first starting out. A lot of people are listening to this. They're first starting out,
That's right.
And
That's
so
right.
it's really
That's
important. Right. Yeah. So buy the book, How to Deliver Bad News and Get Away with It. It's on Amazon. It's beautiful. It's yellow and red and black.
It's so for the audience, to get away with it was a suggestion from the publisher because they were like, it'll catch people's attention. I think it did its job. It is not sneakily delivering bad news. To get away with it is to get away with keeping your sanity, is the way I explain to people when that. What does that get away with it mean? Does it mean like you're delivering bad news in like a twisted way? No, it's not. It's not the point of the book.
Yeah, and on my first glance when they sent me the book for review and everything, I didn't get that at all. Like, it was attention grabbing and it was smart, but the moment you start reading that description and that narrative of the book, you're like, oh, okay. And that's what we want to do. We want to feel like we did the right thing and delivered the bad news correctly.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Because sometimes people feel like, and to add to the get away with it thing, sometimes people feel like if they're giving bad news, they're going to get in trouble. So that's how I took it. It was like how to deliver bad news without getting in trouble. That's how I interpreted it.
That's right. Right. I mean, you'll get into trouble if you don't deliver bad news one way or the other, right? So,
speed is essential with bad news. That's one thing that I've learned. Carrying that weight around is like, it's not good.
It's not good. It's not good.
No.
And I sometimes like annoy the crap out of my HR people because I don't sit on these situations. So I think the rule of thumb is if you're delivering bad news, chances are it's already late, right? It's already too late. So, and no matter how hard I try, no matter how people try, you're always going to be a little bit late. So if the little voice in your head is going, you have to act on it, then I would suggest you listen to that little voice in your head and just act on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people will always be upset that it's not, that they will always feel like it came out of the blue. And why didn't I know about this before? It's like, well, because we made the decision 30 seconds ago or this morning at breakfast. Like, this is us telling you now.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh man, I feel right at home with you, my friend.
I know. Like, I wonder if it's a good thing or a bad thing.
We'll find out later. All right, I like this topic. Why CTOs can no longer be the nice guy. Is that covered in the book?
It's somewhat, but I think the general tone around R&D investment has changed dramatically since I wrote the book. So, which is why I think it's a topic that every CTO should think about. Think about like all the time as they're like making decisions. So, a few things. One is engineering teams used to be the special class of teams that are hard to find. The people are hard to find because you need like extensive training to become an engineer. Same goes for product managers too. Same goes for anybody who is in the broader R&D organization, like designers, product managers, engineers, infrastructure engineers, DevOps engineers, etc. And the barrier to entry has reduced quite a bit in the last like 15 years. And with the advent of AI tools, it is even smaller. The barrier is almost like non-existent. Again, I don't put a ton of faith in building world-class products with like vibe coding. I mean, just it's not true, right? So I think you can use the current crop of AI tools to maybe put together a prototype or maybe extend parts of your product. But I can't imagine it'll build a world-class, lovable product without any human intervention. I just don't buy that. But the reality is it has reduced the barrier to entry. So more and more, people can teach themselves like programming or building an app and getting stuff out there as fast as possible. That's the backdrop of all of this. So, and I'm a CTO, so I manage engineering teams and product teams. I would say that it is, and people don't like it when I say it, but R&D teams are not special anymore. So they are special maybe if you're working for the ML team in OpenAI or if you're working on some cutting edge a biomedical tool that, or biomedical product or healthcare product that's going to solve for cancer or whatever. If you're building a standard SaaS application or a standard mobile app or a standard like content creation application, you're not special, right? So that is the reality of where we are right now. So that's one thing. The second thing is because of the market conditions in the last like 5 to 10 years, there is so much pressure on R&D teams to show ROI, in timeframes that are shorter and shorter and shorter. If you think back like 10 years ago, if you go, I remember this famous interview that Bezos did with, I forget what the news outlet was. He said, then the guy was asking, how come you don't show profits? And Jeff's answer was, well, we're going to keep investing it in the future because we're not looking for short-term profits. That is absolutely not the case anymore for engineering teams or anybody who has a big expense. And R&D teams are typically the biggest expense for any company. So your investors, your stakeholders, the executives are all looking for a return on their investment in 12 months or at the most 18 months. And CTOs haven't had to like think like this in a very long time, or maybe ever. Like they know that they are a cost center, but it was never have to show results in like 1 year, 18 months, etc. So that is a reality for most CTOs. And the last thing I'll say is the executives are expected to be capital allocators. I think that everybody else, and this is just my observation, everybody outside of CTOs understood that. Like if you go ask a head of sales to say, how are you measuring your effectiveness? They'll say, okay, you give me $10 million, I'll make it $15 million in this year. They are that accurate. Now, the same is expected from R&D teams too. So CTOs and not just engineering leaders, but product leaders, engineering leaders have to think about the world that way. So if they've been given 20, 30, 40, $50 million, how are you going to convert it into 10% more, 20% more, 30% more? And again, like, some people will say, well, that's like a purely capitalistic way of looking at the world. But I'm just saying, if you want to be an executive in corporate America, like that's the reality, right? So you got to like start thinking like that.
We're on a road trip. Money is the fuel in the gas tank. And if we run out, we're screwed. So we have to you can't just be like, we're hoping. It's like, yeah, well, like, no, that's a horrible strategy. You have to actually know. Now, where I think it comes to be difficult, and tell me how you guys have figured this out or not, or if it's still an open question. But if I go to sales 10 to 15, that's super clear. It's very tangible. It's tangible because it's gross receipts from customers, right?
Yep.
But and it's direct expense. However, a lot of this valuation of technology is somewhat intangible.
That's exactly right.
So like who's dealing with that? Is it the CPTO or the CTO and the CFO getting together to figure out how to do this? How do you do
that's
it?
Right. So Amazon popularized this way of measuring impact. They call it input goals and output goals. So input goals are goals you can control through your teams. So for example, for my team, I can control how often they ship software. I can control, how many bugs will be in every release. I can control the cost of my organization. So I can control those things. I can build these features. I can get them out faster. I can optimize the cost structure of my organization. I can do all of those. And I think what we do, and then the output goals will be adoption of these features and revenue impact because of the work you did. And the way at least I like to do it is I give the input goals to my teams to say, your job is to like release these features and release these things quickly or release these innovative product features. And then the executives will take goals on adoption and revenue because it is a collective job, right? You need marketing to do their jobs. You need sales to do their job. You need customer support to do their jobs. So we kind of like center the revenue goals at the executive level and the controllable goals to the at the R&D level, and not just R&D, but every team. But you're right, though, it's hard to measure, engineering productivity. So what are you gonna measure? So you can look at lines of code written, but that doesn't equate to success. You can like do the the old fashioned like measure time, which is also like a poor metric. So for me, I think I like to look at number of releases we can do production. So if we can ship a feature every week, it shows how quickly we are able to move. And then that is, to me, that the simplest metric that you can track. Like how often do you ship software, and the time it takes for you to like get from idea to execution. But the thing that has really worked well for me is if you release something, then have adoption goals for it for the next 6, 12, 18 months. So oftentimes, CTOs tend to like not take adoption goals because they're like, well, my team did their job, so it's up to marketing or sales or somebody else to like do their jobs too. So I'm hesitant to take on adoption goals. But I think that those days are over, right? So every CTO, every CPO is expected to like take these goals on because you're expected to feel the heat like everybody else is feeling at the exec level.
When you were talking about shipping features, how do you make sure that like the backlog that you're working on, the features that you're shipping are connected to revenue, or is that not something you guys currently do?
No, absolutely. We should think about it. Like, for example, and sometimes I could get myopic too, and I'll explain that in a second why. So in every company that I work for, including Kickstarter where I'm currently at, you have to understand how your company makes money, right? So CTOs tend to sometimes they don't understand that fully. And I encourage every exec, not just CTO, to deeply understand how your company makes money, specifically what your company's growth levers are, like which channel gives you creator, like customers and revenue. So for Kickstarter, the equation is we have a sales team, like an outreach team that goes and talks to creators. That's one channel for acquisition. The website is another channel for acquisition. And the brand awareness is another channel for acquisition of creators who come to the platform. So that's how we get creators. And our revenue is somewhat skewed towards the high revenue creators. So creators who tend to raise the most money on the platform are the ones who affect our revenue profile. So when we build features, we have to keep them in mind because I know for a fact that if you build a feature that helps the high revenue creators' lives, then it'll affect revenue for us like in the next 6 months to 12 months. However, it's this is not just unique to Kickstarter, but other companies too. If you double down on one segment which gives you money, sometimes it'll become a problem too. So your revenue mix is skewed, right? So a big population of revenue comes from one segment of customers, and that's a problem. So you have to like consciously make those decisions. So for example, Google is a good example. A lot of their revenue comes from search, which is a problem for them, which is why they're trying to like diversify the revenue sources. Microsoft for the longest time was Office, but now it has split between cloud, and it's become like pretty diverse. So I think it's understanding where your revenue is coming from and optimizing your roadmap for that. But you can't keep going into the same well for revenue. At some point, you have to start diversifying and saying, okay, I'm going to go find these new pockets of growth because this channel is plateaued or saturated.
It was very common early on in this show, because we've been doing it for almost 10 years now, but that I would run into a lot of CTOs who were head in the sand when it came to understanding the business model and the company. I find it less at the higher levels, like if I'm doing a Palo Alto Networks episode or Kickstarter or Google or something, like they get it, but there's a lot of it in the mid-market too. 10 to 1,000 employees type deal, where they'll just think, okay, I'm hired to do this job. And it's like, that's true. You're hired to do a job. You have an outcome when you're brought on. But I don't believe that that's an excuse for not deeply understanding how the revenue is generated. If you put me in any company, if I'm going to work for anybody, I need to understand how the revenue is generated so I can then see where I sit in the stack and decide if this is the highest and best use of my time. Because you might hire me in you might hire me in for A, but I learn how revenue is going. I'm like, look, B is 10 times more important. You guys agree. We find someone to replace me for A, and I go do B.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. One of the best books that I read about this is a book called Outliers.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Outliers is a book that talks about outlier CEOs who had oversized returns during their tenure. And the big name people are not there. Like Jack Welch is not there. There's all like Elon and all these other like big CEOs are not there because if you benchmark their success as a function of S&P, the people in the book are orders of magnitude better than from that viewpoint, like showing results and showing revenue. And one of the things that the top thing that these CEOs, outlier CEOs, do really well is capital allocation. So they really, really understand how to allocate their capital. They keep their costs low. They buy back shares from the market so that they have control over the company and keep share prices high. And they do all these kind of interesting things, and none of it is about innovation per se, right? It's about understanding how businesses work and optimizing for what gives them the most revenue.
Yeah, that was the Malcolm Gladwell book, right?
I don't
Or was that a different one?
I don't think so.
I want to read this book.
Sorry, I said the name of the book wrong. Sorry, it's not
Okay.
Outliers. You're right. Outliers is a Malcolm Gladwell book. The book I was referring to is called The Outsiders.
The Outsiders.
The Outsiders by William Thorndike Jr. The Outsiders: 8 Unconventional CEOs and the Radically Rational Blueprint for Success.
Yes, not the film.
Not the film.
Not the coming of age drama. No. We're talking. All right, cool. Josh has got that on screenshot. I'm going to check this book out because as you were talking, I was like, I read Outliers. I was like, I remember the athletes and I remember all these people and their habits and how they were outliers and what made them different. I don't remember them doing CEOs though.
Yeah, I got the book still in my head. Yeah, but I'm glad that we got the right book because that's a great book and not many people have heard about it because
no, I haven't.
Yeah. When people think about how to be a CEO, they pick up your standard Peter Drucker book or Peter Thiel's like 0 to 1 or Malcolm Gladwell's like Outliers. They pick up these books, but if you like really, really like do the 5 whys and really dig into like what does the CEO do or any executive does, it's about capital allocation and financial prudence. Like that's what their goal is. And oftentimes they get lost. That gets lost.
You said you were a little bit of an introvert when you started. I obviously connect with that. One of the reasons why I started the podcast was because I had very little connections. I was good at engineering and I could see people doing better than me and I could look at their GitHub profiles and I'm like, how are you doing better than me when I'm a better engineer than you are? And then I realized relationships are very important. So like I said, I need a vehicle for relationships. And then that started the podcast. It was a huge stretch for me because I wasn't much of a, talker and all of that. And it's changed my entire life. Now for you, tell me about your journey going from introvert to the clear, articulate leader you are today.
I think it's one of the things I tried to do when I was early on in my career is to act like I was an extrovert. And I would go out to these parties and I would talk to everybody. I would do drive-by management. I would just like walk around, talk to everybody. And I still do that to a certain extent when I'm in a physical location. But what I realized is it's not so much about becoming an extrovert or acting like one. It is more about being able to like turn it on when you need to. And I know for a fact that it's gonna drain me emotionally. So I kind of structure my kind of activities like that. So for example, if I have to go on stage and I talk to like 1,000 people, I know that day is going to be draining. So I clear my mornings, clear my afternoons. So I have nothing to do before and after that event. So it's more knowing that you have to artificially turn it on and be ready to recover like shortly after. And I think a lot of it is practice too. And you can, if you want to be an exec who can connect with your entire team, can have relationships with your CEO, with your board members, sometimes you have to be able to like turn it on quickly, and that comes with practice. So I have read a bunch of books about public speaking, about how to articulate your point of view clearly, and how to have these like small moments with your teams, which could end up becoming like really important moments in your relationship. And interestingly enough, the one thing that helps me quite a bit is pop culture. So I watch a lot of trash TV. Or maybe not trash, but I watch like a lot of TV.
Real Housewives? Yeah.
No, I don't see that. But I'm like up to date with the kind of the vibe of the world.
I'm gonna keep finishing your sentence.
I tried watching that once on a plane. It was terrible. It was horrible.
It's terrible. It's horrible.
It's horrible. I can't imagine like people watching that stuff. But I watched Stranger Things. I'm a big fan of that show. I watch like all these kind of like famous like Netflix shows or HBO shows, etc. So it's not so much about being able to relax, because that's certainly one part of it, but being able to have a common conversation when someone brings it up. So if someone mentions something in a conversation, I can use my pop culture trash references to sort of just like diffuse the tension between me and that person. Because oftentimes when I have my first conversation with an employee, it's like, oh, you were talking to the CTO. Like I'm already like worried about this conversation. The minute they say, oh, I watched this show, then I was like, oh yeah, I watched this show too. This is my interesting bits in this show. There's interesting characters, and it kind of helps have those kind of initial conversations that could end up becoming real. But it's my long-winded way of saying it comes with practice. But understand that you cannot become an extrovert ever. If you're an introvert, you're always an introvert. You just need to understand that you need to be able to turn it on, and you have to be able to understand like how long it's going to take you to recover from it, basically.
Yeah, that's why at events, I still don't socialize at conferences and things like that. If I'm at a conference, it's because I'm speaking. Because I can do that. I can like go there, do like a talk to people after, and then go, have dinner or something. But I'm not one to hang around the conference for 8 hours. I just don't. It sucks me completely dry of energy.
No, yeah. Wildly, interestingly enough, so when I do conferences, so I do my bit and I just go back and work. That kind of re-energizes me, because I'm talking to my people. We're talking problems that I'm familiar with. Unless there are other executives in the post-conference, whatever, I tend to like not hang out after. I just go back to my room and just work.
Yeah. Do you have a family?
I have. So my wife, I have a wife and an 11-year-old who's into Rubik's Cubes, video games, friends, jiu-jitsu.
Nice.
That's what he does.
Well-adjusted kid.
I know. He asked me, am I a nerd or a jock? And I'm like, I think, dude, you're somewhere in the middle. You have your foot in both land, which I think is a cool skill to have.
We can play Xbox. I can also kill you.
It was fascinating. So we enrolled him in jiu-jitsu to build up his self-confidence, because he was at a new school. He wasn't having issues adjusting per se, but we wanted to give him something that helps build his confidence when it comes to like talking to new people, just like walking up to them, making friendships, etc. And it worked out really well for him. He's really into the sport, and at jiu-jitsu, every 2 weeks there'll be like a new white belt that you have to spar with, and you have to teach this other person, and it teaches him like these kind of everyday skills, which has been great.
Well, doing difficult things is how you develop character. So you have to find a way that's like appropriate for their age to introduce them to that, right?
That's right. Yeah, you put it more eloquently than I did. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Well, thank you for the kind words. Yeah, I have a wife and I have 3 kids. So my daughter is 7, my one son is 6, and my other son is about 3.
Okay, 3.
So
is it true when they say, when you have 2, it's hard, when it's 3, it's like basically easier?
Yeah, I'd say one is easy. 2 is extremely difficult. 3 it's not that bad.
It's not
like once you're at 3, you can go to 6 really easily.
It's like you've hit that plateau of uncomfortability now. You can just keep going.
Yeah, and while I only have 3, and that's our current limit for medical reasons, we would have more if we could. But we have several friends that have 4, 5, 6 kids, and what we see the trend is through them is if you're having your 6th kid, your oldest kid's like 10.
Oh yeah, that person,
right?
that kid can help out. Yeah,
and they do, and it's not something where across small sample size, 5 groups of friends, we have similar cultural beliefs, but none of them have to convince the kids to help. All the kids want to help.
I mean, on the topic of kids, and maybe I'll get, screwed for saying this. I think the kind of discipline that I see in the current generation of kids is way more than I see in some pockets of the workforce. So the the cohort that my son is with, they're very much they already have goals. My son is 11 and he has goals now. He is like, I want to go do this and I want to get into this class and I want to do this and this and this. And I remember like at 11, I didn't have any of that. I was like, yeah, we're just going to go wherever the wind takes me. But it's not just him, like all the kids in his class have like deep goals and they are like motivated and driven um and it's remember like when there was quiet quitting and during the COVID times, and I don't get that sense at all from this generation. So I think the youngest generation right now who's in the workforce, I think they're all about finding their own thing, right? They want to do their own thing. They want to influencers and creators and want like own small businesses. I think that's what their vibe is, and they're not like super into like corporate America. So they're like, yeah, we want to do our own thing. And I have a feeling that the generation that your kids and my kids are in, or my son is in, I think they'll end up building these next big corporations because they seem to be wired that way. Like they're not like thinking about, oh, I just need enough money to survive without having to work for the man. I think these people will be the man, I feel.
Well, history repeats itself.
That's right.
Yeah, I don't think you're far off base there. And I actually heard the other day, to your point. So my businesses have always grown to about 30 people and then sold, and so I don't have mega team experience, but you do, and a lot of other people I talk to do. And I've heard that a couple times where there's this pocket of, let's say, age range 20 to 27 or whatever, where there was an article on LinkedIn this past week where they're actually hiring people to come in and teach them office etiquette, because a lot of them grew up in the job market during COVID. And so they're not making eye contact at home on screens. And then they're back in the office and they have to learn, they're teaching them how to dress, how to behave, how to have, interactions correctly. And
that's
right. I was blown away.
Yeah, same. Like, so I was listening to this podcast that the founders of Stripe were on, the Carlson brothers. And I forget which brother said this, but they did a broad study across their workforce, and their workforce is huge. Like Stripe is huge, and what they found was that, and the focus of the study was, is remote work effective? So that was the focus of their study because they're hybrid now, just like most companies. And they found that experienced professionals are the most productive in remote environments. The young people who just graduated out of college, they are left behind in a remote world. They benefit from being in the office with other experienced professionals, teaching them, to your point, like work etiquette. Like how do you show up to meetings, and how do you build relationships with your coworkers? How do you resolve conflicts? You can't like text away your conflict at work. You have to like address it directly, head on, and have conversations. And so it was a fascinating insight for me. And if the Collison brothers are saying that, then I tend to believe them because they're very spot on most of the things they talk about, which is interesting. Like now, I wonder what the tech world will do with that information. So will we say all new graduates end up going to like a physical location and everybody else can go? I don't know. We'll have to see how it evolves.
It's an imperfect situation.
Yeah.
But I'm certain of one thing, everybody's going to do it a little bit differently. And in 10 years, we'll know the answer.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Earlier you made a comment about the vibe coding and it just not being there. And I agree. Today, it is not there.
Mm-hmm.
But question for you, if you look at a time scale of 100 years, do you think we get there?
Timescale of 100 years, like if I can predict what happens in the next year, like I'll be a millionaire, like millions of dollars. I just don't. I think this is kind of my problem with anybody who's predicting the future is most of the time they're wrong. I don't know if you remember, but on the I think it's founding fund or founders fund, the Peter Thiel's fund, right? Like they had a tag on their website that for the longest time that said, we wanted flying cars, we got 140 characters, which is very accurate in what happens in the tech world, right? So people in the 1960s, you look at the space movies that came out, and everybody is like, oh, we have flying cars, we'll build spaceships that go to Mars and et cetera, but we have social media, right? So I don't know what is gonna come out of this GPT arc we're on. What I can say is we cannot not embrace it, right? So we have to embrace it. We have to start using it. We have to push this technology to the limits to find out where it will take us. So right now, I can say that just going by what results I've been seeing personally and what my teams have been seeing personally is it is good at acting as a helper, right? So, but it cannot even do what a pair programmer would do, right? So for example, if you know our pair programming, you would like spot issues that this thing cannot, right? And because you would ask questions like, hey, is this requirement the right requirement, or is this what the customer actually wants? Because I don't think this is what they want. So things like that, I don't think the tooling is there, like it's not gonna like ask you those questions. I do think it'll become better and better over time. I think it'll make people more effective. My personal prediction is that the next breakthrough with this technology will come in something which is not in tech. It'll be healthcare, or it'll be space travel, or it could be, general politics or administration or something like that. I think that's where I think the next killer application is. In terms of it replacing engineers, I don't think it's close. I think maybe in the next 5 to 10 years, it might change my mind. But here's a good example. So you were probably around when the cloud revolution came about, right?
Yeah.
So before then, you had physical data centers, you have NOCs, and you had network engineers, you have system engineers. And when these things came about, everybody was like, well, this is going to just destroy one's population of the tech worker group, right? So sysadmins, network engineers, all those those jobs will disappear. The jobs did disappear to a certain extent, but the people didn't, right? So we still employ the same number of people who manage this infrastructure, and it has centralized to a few large companies for sure. Meta, AWS, Google, etc. employ a large number of these professionals who keep the data centers running, keep the cloud infrastructure running, but it didn't cause any sort of large calamity in the population, in the tech worker population. So I do think the AI shift is much bigger than the cloud revolution. So we'll see what happens in the future. But in the short term, my recommendation would be to embrace this tech and not try to cause fear or just be a Luddite, but because it's not going to be good for you.
That's what I'm always trying to do. I'm trying to understand, okay, can't be the Luddite.
Yeah.
You can't be over optimistic. You have to figure out, where things are going. I do like that the Peter Thiel thing. Although when I did hear it, I was like, well, the people who were dreaming of flying cars didn't understand air displacement. So it's very noisy.
That's right. Hey, we did get the iPad though. That was in
We got the iPad.
We got the iPad.
Yeah.
It was in 2001 Space Odyssey. So I was like, yeah we got one.
We've got a lot of stuff. Our lives are so amazing. And I do agree with you. I think the next huge breakthroughs are going to be humans assisted by AIs making discoveries and things like medicine and all, because it can see if you put the AI with super talented people, you can just amplify it.
That's
you put
exactly
the
right.
AI with regular people, you can get them up to speed, but there seems to be no substitute for legitimate experience in an industry. Like
That's right.
You can't substitute 10 years releasing product.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think of the current AI tools as an autocomplete for the world. So usually in IDEs, you have autocomplete for the function name or for method lookups or signature lookups, etc. But the current AI tools are autocomplete for all the information in the world. So if you have that at your tips, you can imagine that you'll become so much more effective and productive and to your point, like discovering new things.
Are you using Grok or ChatGPT in your personal life outside of work stuff? Are you using any LLMs?
So I use Claude for like suggestions to like articles that I write. So I just put it in there and say, what do you think of it? How do you strengthen it, etc. But I don't take the way it rewards it because my voice gets lost whenever it touches my copy. But some of the pieces of feedback are valid. Some of them are just parroted because everybody else will say the same thing in the world. So I take some of it as, oh, this is great, but I just still reward it in my own way. And sometimes I have replaced search with ChatGPT. So if I want to like look up statistics, for example, I use Claude or ChatGPT because I want to say how many CTOs are in the world, right? If I go to Google search, I have to do my own research to sift through this and this and this. But if I just like
a caveman.
Yeah, exactly. Which is just like Google search anymore. But it is good for research, is what I would say. But you still need the critical human eye to look at it and go, yeah, this is valid, this is not valid because the source was invalid. But for research, I think it's a great tool.
One little side note here. One of the things that I have found to be pretty successful with keeping tone is in Claude or some of the other ones, they'll call it a workspace, like a work area. And then I upload it like my book and transcripts from my podcast. And then I tell it to analyze my tone and then give it a specific label so that I can reference it in the future, and it will. And so whenever I want to do, I say, do this in Joel's tone. Because I just had it call it Joel's tone, and then it doesn't get it 100%. Okay. There's still like editing and changes and stuff, but it prevents it from like talking like a surfer or something, like going like, or like a country boy, like
That's
going
right.
like really out there. It will at least get it like much closer to a finished product.
Yeah. I think that's a good tip. I'll try it out.
Yeah, it's worked. I've also, the other thing, so 8 months ago, didn't use it at all. Today I use Grok or GPT or Claude. I go to them for different reasons, probably multiple times a day. But the second thing and third things that I have found to be very useful are both relationships with my family. When I want to approach my wife about something that I think might be difficult or she might not respond to well, I'll actually, or if I want to share an idea with her, I'll ask Grok, and it has enough information about my past interactions, what to focus on, or like what types of words to use. Oh my God, it's so good. It is so good. Or if I've got my kids, I'll be like, my 7-year-old, I want to explain this concept to him. Like, how should I do it? It's like, well, sit down and play with them and then bring it up like this. And I was like, okay, now I'm the filter. I'm making the choices of like what I'm going to do, but it's like being surrounded by some really knowledgeable people and then asking their advice and then taking the pieces you think are good and trying it out.
I think that's the piece that people forget sometimes is ChatGPT or any of these AI tools is looking at things written by people in the end. Maybe your advice on how to talk to your 7-year-old probably is like a clinician wrote it in one of their articles that it's picking up from because it was popular and well received. And but in the end, it's still people creating the content. Well, it'll be really interesting to see if there's an explosion in AI written content and how that's going to affect all of this. But well, I don't know if we're close to that though.
Oh, we are. So my buddies over at QTS Data Center, I don't know if this can make it in, Josh. We'll have to talk about it after. My buddies over at QTS Data Centers, they are the largest per square foot data center in North America.
Mm-hmm.
So when Meta needs a new center, they call them up or something like that. And I've gotten close with them over the years because they have a podcast. We go back and forth. Great guy, by the way, if you want me to introduce you. But Dave, I was visiting them in Atlanta, and he showed me this graph of like the compute that they're doing across all their data centers and everything. And it's like a hockey stick until this weird point, and then it's like almost a straight line up. And he goes, "That's Gen AI." And I was like, "No way."
But I guess the question we have to ask ourselves is, are we putting all that compute to good use or not?
Oh, well, yeah, it's Kim Kardashian episodes.
That's
so,
right.
Of course, clearly, this is going very well.
It's like have you ever seen, do you see South Park at all? Have you seen South Park?
Oh, yeah, South Park's hilarious.
So South Park made this episode about Family Guy, but how these manatees choose random thought bubbles. And
I've seen that one. Yes.
And they put that together as episodes. So sometimes I wonder if, the people using all this compute are just putting together crappy reality TV or TV shows with that stuff.
I'm sure it's a mix of everything.
Yeah.
People are reprogramming T cells to solve cancer at the same time. Some Instagram influencers, bikini pictures going by. It's all happening the same time.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh, man. Well, Mahesh, we made a podcast, man. How do you feel?
Yeah, it's great. It's a really good conversation. I loved it.
Yeah. Go buy the book. What's the name of the book?
How to Deliver Bad News and Get Away with It.
It's on Amazon. You all have Amazon on your phone. Don't tell me you don't. Go on there. Buy that yellow, red, and black book. It's beautiful. Thank you so much for listening. And if you found this episode useful, please share it with a friend or a colleague who you think would get value from it. And if you have topics that you would like to hear discussed on the podcast, either add me on LinkedIn or send me an email, joel@moderncto.io. Every time I get an email or LinkedIn message, it absolutely makes my day and inspires me to keep going.